Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Merce Gaming and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at claymores and we're going to be testing them in depth to see what they can and cannot do. If you haven't already, make sure you hit subscribe and the like button. That way it helps this channel grow and it gives me more opportunities to make videos such as this. Alright, so the claymore is a motion activated mine that detonates when enemies walk in front of it. The range of the claymore works in a cone-shaped radius, and the lasers are actually accurate for the horizontal range, or the x-axis, and the vertical range, or the z-axis, is far off from what the lasers actually represent. So the vertical range seems to be about 5 to 6 meters, so enemies can trigger the claymore in this range and just take damage, but the lethal range is 4 meters, and the height of detonation, or the y-axis, is extremely small. The claymore's detonation range works in a nearly flat cone. The claymore has about a 1 second prime time, so as soon as it's placed down, it actually has to warm up and then the lasers come on, so it's not instant the moment you place it down. In addition, the claymore does not explode immediately, so it emits a quiet click and then it explodes about a quarter of a second after detecting movement. So this gives enemies a little bit of time to jump out of that radius if they're peeking around a wall or something, but it's really not the biggest heads up in the world. Another interesting fact, if you shoot an enemy claymore, you will never die if you are at full health. This doesn't matter if you are behind the claymore, if you're to the side, or if it was placed directly in front of you and you shoot it, you will not die. EOD does not seem to make a significant impact to the damage taken from shooting the claymore. However, you will still die if you shoot your own claymore, so if you are trying to change your class or something like that and you really got to kill yourself, you can still do it, but enemy claymores will not kill you this way. So the next thing I tested was how the motion works with detonating a claymore. So if a claymore is placed down directly in front of you, you are completely safe as long as you do not move. So if someone's trying to troll you and you're camping, you can sit there and you can spin around all you want. It will not hurt you, so rotating the camera will not cause the claymore to blow up. Only walking or jumping will do this. This is pretty useful to know in case someone tries to trap you. You can take out the enemy to cause their claymore to disappear, or you can shoot it if you are at full health. Something else to note, you can only have up to 2 claymores placed at once. If you place down a third, if you're using either restock or you use a supply crate, your first claymore disappears and so on and so forth. The claymore's lasers can be seen through doors and thin objects, and if a claymore is placed halfway behind a doorway and explodes, it still deals full damage. This is a great way to hide the equipment. However, at least one of the lasers needs to be poking out for this to work. If the claymore is completely covered, it will not work at all. Something I think that's extremely useful to know, if you place down a claymore on an enemy tactical insertion, there is no delay or protection against the explosion when they spawn back in. So if the player sees a tactical insertion, it's a lot better just to place down a claymore and stay alive. You're going to get a free kill rather than destroying it. The next thing I tried was using claymores against moving vehicles. So we did this against a tank, and the damage they give is extremely minuscule. The tank will still trigger the explosion, but I think we tried about 7 or 8 claymores and the tank was not even down a quarter health. So this is really not a good way to counter these vehicles. So I think the claymore is a pretty strong piece of lethal equipment. I actually run this on a lot of my classes, so let's get into some of the ways that you can counter it. And the first and best way by far is to equip the EOD perk. The EOD perk makes you take reduced damage against the claymore's explosion, and as long as you are at full health, you will not be able to die from the claymore's blast. It takes 2 claymores to kill a player with EOD equipped. The perk only reduces the explosive damage taken. It does not reduce the effects of shrapnel's delayed health regeneration, nor does it delay the detonation time on a claymore. And EOD also lets you hack claymores and use them as your own. There's no limit to how many hacked claymores you can have, surprisingly enough, so although you can only have 2 of your own claymores placed down at a time, the hacked claymores don't count towards this, so I think we were able to do 5 at a time, and I think that's a really strong overlooked feature of that perk. It really feels like EOD was made specifically to counter claymores in particular, similar to how Ghost was made to counter UAVs. So if you're having a lot of difficulty avoiding these mines, I would definitely equip this perk and you'll have a lot better time playing multiplayer. Another awesome perk for countering claymores would be the spotter perk. This is very effective at countering claymores just because you can see them through walls. You can see claymores and other equipment, and you can tag the equipment for other teammates to see by aiming down your sights, but they'll only be able to see the equipment for about 8 seconds at a time until you aim down your sights again and tag it. Next, I decided to try out trophy systems, and once again, they're amazing against countering claymores, so they will wipe out any claymore in the vicinity, up to 3 of them. This works best against enemy players trying to place down new claymores, so the enemy will actually take damage when this happens, but not full explosive damage. The damage is similar to the kind you would take when you shoot a Claymore up close. It will destroy any Claymores that have already been placed down, but this does cause the Claymores at this point to fully explode like normal, which will probably destroy your trophy system along with the Claymores. This is very effective for protecting choke points in objective game modes such as domination. If you've got a lot of people trying to capture a headquarters, for example, if you throw a trophy system in the area, it's going to confuse a lot of players. So I would say this is a very strong way to counter Claymores as well. Another piece of equipment that can counter Claymores is the stun grenade. So when you throw a stun grenade, it will actually deactivate the Claymore for about a second. It doesn't make it explode, but it temporarily takes it down just to give you enough time to get by. Now, of course, most lethal equipment will destroy the Claymore, so frag grenades, Semtex, and C4 all blow it up. No surprise there. Molotovs, however, will detonate the Claymore upon impact, but the remaining fire will not cause newly placed Claymores to blow up. I also tested thermite grenades, and these will detonate Claymores, and the burn effect will prevent new Claymores from being placed in the same spot. You can destroy a Claymore with a throwing knife, funny enough, so if you have no other options, this will work. However, a Claymore itself does not seem to destroy another Claymore. I find this extremely confusing. I don't know why you would want to do this in the first place, but let's say you do. I don't see why the explosion from one Claymore doesn't trigger the other one. Something else I found interesting, so if an enemy places a Claymore in front of you, and then you place down a deployable cover in front of that Claymore, it negates any explosive damage, so you moving away still causes the Claymore to blow up, but the deployable cover does protect you against this blast. So this is pretty effective, again, if someone's trying to trap you in a corner, and you have a deployable cover, you'll be safe. I also tested the EMP drone, and this completely decimates any Claymore in the vicinity, whether or not it's within the line of sight of the explosion. So if it explodes outside and a Claymore is inside of a building, as long as it's within the blast radius, it will get destroyed. And finally, the best way to counter Claymores besides equipping extra perks is to put the Riot Shield on your class, and the Riot Shield pretty much turns you into Superman against Claymores. You take absolutely no damage against Claymores, and you give no hit marker when they explode when your shield is out. You do not have to be crouched when you're walking up to Claymores. Standing with your legs exposed doesn't make you take any explosive damage, and if you walk backwards with your shield on your back, you still remain unfazed against Claymores. If you run over a Claymore from behind with your shield on your back, you avoid any damage, but if you walk at just regular speed and do this, you will die. The only way a Riot Shield user takes damage against a Claymore is if they're sprinting at full speed as they put the shield at their side when they're doing that. Users will also take damage on whichever side the shield is not on if they're walking by a Claymore. So as I mentioned, the Riot Shield is incredibly strong against countering Claymores, and if you run into a player who has a Riot Shield out, don't try to just place a Claymore in front of them. It's not going to do anything. So that's all the perks and equipment that I can think of that would have any sort of effect against Claymore. So if you know of anything else that I missed, please let me know in the comments below. Now let's look at some things that do not really have any sort of effect against Claymores, and the first thing I tried was the High Alert perk. This lets you see if an enemy is aiming their sights at you when they're off screen, so I didn't know if maybe this could have some effect on Claymores that you don't see, but unfortunately no, they have absolutely no effect against detecting Claymores. Although stun grenades can deactivate Claymores, I tried flash grenades and they don't do anything against them, so these are also pretty useless. In my last video I tried the snapshot grenade to see if it would trigger the Claymores if you throw them in the vicinity, and they only destroy Claymores if you throw them directly at the mine, but them spinning and whirring up in the air doesn't really do anything. I also tried smoke grenades to see if they would do anything, such as reducing the range or reducing the time it takes for them to explode, and unfortunately no, they don't do anything except make the Claymores harder to see, so don't try these at all. Something I thought that would actually have some sort of effect on Claymores is the recon drone, but unfortunately you cannot tag enemy equipment, you can only tag enemy players themselves. Now, something I feel that's kind of useful to know is the recon drone will not trigger the detonation of a Claymore, so if you're worried about this and you're flying indoors a lot with these, you're not going to trigger anything, you'll be absolutely fine. Lastly, I tried the decoy grenades, and these don't do anything against Claymore, so although they're spinning around and they're making gunfire noises, they don't cause anything to detonate. And funny enough, like you saw in the clip from the beginning, you can place a Claymore on top of a decoy grenade. This would be extremely difficult to do once again. We tried this a lot of times and we couldn't do it anymore besides the one clip that I got, and this is just kind of an unintended effect that I'm sure they'll patch in the future. Alright, that wraps up the Claymore testing in depth, so if I missed anything, please let me know in the comments section below. And if you haven't already, please make sure you hit subscribe and that like button. It helps this channel grow, and it keeps you notified for when I post new videos such as this. If there's anything you'd like to see in the future, such as another tips and tricks or a certain comedy video, again, just let me know and I'll make it happen. And I will see you in the next video.